All right, here we go. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome, everybody, to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker-Carl, and I'm here with my good friends Dan and Sandy and Catherine. And today we're talking about Chapter 5 of The Soul of Money. Oops, just lost my bookmark there. The Soul of Money by Lynne Twist. And Chapter 5 is entitled Money is Like Water. And but before we get started, I want to give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves. And for those of you who are watching, if you want to participate in the conversation, there's a comment area below the video here on YouTube where you can share your thoughts as we go along. We'd love to hear from you and see what your insights are on this conversation as well. Or if you'd like to participate with us next week, you can drop us a line in our Facebook group where you can reach us at mindsetmasterycollective.com. That'll take you directly into our Facebook group, and you can join the group and add to the conversation there. So with that, guys, go ahead, jump out and introduce yourselves.
Good morning. This is Catherine Clement in Boulder, Colorado.
Good morning, Dan Sissick in Las Vegas.
Good morning, sleepy Sandy here in Miami Beach.
So everybody, Catherine, or did I was paying attention to something I was writing in the chat and I wasn't paying attention. I apologize. Okay, so Chapter 5. Money is like water. In the beginning of this chapter, or at the top, there's like a little quote, I guess, or maybe it's just her little thought before the chapter. And she says, money is a current, a carrier, a conduit for our intentions. Money carries the imprimatur of our soul. And, you know, this chapter really, for me, it kind of just changed my whole perspective. I never really thought about money in the way that she's kind of discussing it in this chapter. I thought about it and, you know, I mean, money pays the bills and, you know, we earn money at a job and you've got to have it in order to survive. And, you know, and sometimes I've thought about, you know, donating money to people or helping my kids with money or that sort of thing. But I've really never thought of it like it was a way to express my best values in the world, if you will, or I don't know, just my whole intentions of the way that I live in the world. And so this was just a really interesting chapter that just kind of struck me in a way that I had just never thought about money before. What do you guys think when you first read it? What popped out for you?
Pop out. I didn't get to read the whole chapter, unfortunately, but I read the first few, probably 10 pages or so. Got halfway through. But yeah, I mean, like you were saying, it really made you think about the intention behind money, like when you're using it, how you're using it, what you're spending it for. Like, I thought it was so powerful that she gave that CEO guy back her check. Like, no normal, I mean, most people wouldn't do that. They'd say, oh, great, look, we got a $50,000 check. Ah! But she really, you know, took into account the consciousness of where that money was coming from, or where it was coming from in that guy's energy, and that it wasn't what they wanted. And that is super powerful. And if we're able to really look at how we're giving and receiving money from that state of consciousness, then that's a life changer, a world changer. If people wake up to how that consciousness of the money and how the poor, the other, I don't know if it was a poor community, but the community she went into after that, where they were giving what they could, and that was coming from their heart, from their soul, and that was a whole different energy. How even if it was $50 compared to $50,000, it went so much further because of the soul energy that was behind that giving. Yeah, that's changing my whole paradigm, like you were saying, Samantha, too, like just how we're giving money, like what is the intention behind it, what is that message that we're carrying as we're giving our money to things.
Yeah, I wanted to jump out and add on to that too, because that Gertrude, the old woman at the church from where she went to, where they were doing the fundraising for the Harlem area, from the Harlem area, um, the way she, expressed herself and their thoughts really grabbed me. And it's like, and you know, as I'm reading, I could almost feel that energy, so to speak. And then as I was reading about him and how she, as she was going up the elevator, she became more and more. It's almost like she felt the energy that the money was, how the money was being used, coming already, even though she hadn't even gotten up into the meeting. How prevalent it was, and how when she got in there, and then she was realizing the reasons why. Um, they were given the money. It was to appease and give a better perception of the company to the public that really wasn't real. And so to me, that's what really kind of grabbed me. And I think, we've all had that feeling, like with people, where we get an uneasy feeling about a person, like, oh, there's something about that person is not right. But most of us don't carry it to the acts of, the things we do, the service, the how we handle our money, how we, the energy, the vibrations, because, you know, um, based on what we've gone through before, we've learned that we are vibrational beings, and that the vibrations carry through and add or subtract to what we're doing and what we give out, and to the energies that we give out in the, universe and the world. And that's, it's kind of funny, because subconsciously, I think I kind of thought of you, Sandy, when I was reading about this, because the energy and the aura and how you look at things. And I kind of thought of you a little bit, subconsciously, because of, I think of you as being that type of person, and Catherine also being those type of people that are very vibrationally aware of things, and get that feeling. So to hear you say it even made you, that kind of came as a shock to me. So, but it made me open my eyes to how I look at things, and how maybe I'm blocking some of my own, you know, um, river of money. Not to say it's coming out the wrong way, but how I feel like I'm kind of like Gertrude, the trickle money, but I let it affect me, and I, kind of hold on to it more, because it's like there doesn't seem to ever be enough, rather than letting it go and letting my intentions override, and give it a new vibration to put out into the world, and spread and add and give to the world, rather than just holding on and taking. So I think that's something I learned too.
I think that reminded me of a part I highlighted here. Yeah, when we see money as something that flows through our lives and through the world, we realize that it doesn't really belong to anyone, or we could say it belongs to everyone. And the opportunity we have is to allow this resource, just like water, to move through the world in a way that nurtures the most people and the highest purpose. I mean, yeah, it's an entity like water. It's its own it's an energy that I can't put into words, but yeah, like it's not anybody's, but it's everybody's. And however she put it here is perfect. I'm not going to botch it up.
Yeah, I was really thinking about, after reading this chapter, about how we can, make our interactions with money coming into our life as well as going out of our life have so much more significance than what we probably have ever thought of it before. And when she was talking about when she went shopping for her granddaughter, her first granddaughter, and she was all excited about going on this big shopping spree, and they're going to buy all this baby stuff. And her son had called her and said, "Look, you know, before you go, I want to make sure that you understand that we only want to buy from retailer or from uh, manufacturers that are, you know, working with the environment or who have good intentions, or they have, you know, they support the workers that make the products for them. They, you know, they don't, you know, she was sharing, he was sharing all of these different things that he wanted to make sure that they were considering before buying the products. You know, he didn't want them to be bought from companies that are exploiting the workers and not considering the environmental effects of their manufacturing and that sort of thing. You know, and I've had thoughts like that before. You know, we in Indianapolis, we have a lot of different grocery retailers that we can take advantage of that are, you know, like they get produce from local farmers versus big farming companies. Who knows where they are? And you know, so I've thought about these things before, and I think about it a lot. Like with coffee is one of the things that I buy a lot of. And so when I'm looking at coffee and I'm considering where it comes from, in some ways I thought, okay, you know, I really want to pay attention to this because this product is something that I'm consuming. I mean, I'm putting it into my body, and I don't know where it was that at first I started thinking about all the aspects of the way something is produced and all the different people that are involved in it. But at some point I did. And with coffee, I just started thinking about that. I'm like thinking about, you know, who are the farmers that are growing the beans? Who are the field workers who are harvesting them? Who are, you know, what about the manufacturing process and the roasting process? Who are the people that are involved with that? How is that affecting things? And the reason I was considering that was because when I think about my food, it's kind of a bigger deal to me knowing whether or not those people are they going to have good attitudes while they're making that food, because I feel like if they have a good attitude and they're happy, then they're putting good intentions into the stuff that they're producing, and therefore when it gets to me, it feels better. It's better for me on a vibrational energy level than if I'm eating or consuming something that is made by somebody who's upset about making it. And, you know, I don't know at what point I just started thinking about those things, but, you know, recently I came across a product that it's the International Coffees or International Delights creamer. And on the side of the container, it says hug in a mug. And that struck me as such a huge thing. And because I generally don't buy like liquid coffee creamers, I have just, you know, I just use sugar and a heavy cream, and that's what I generally use. But over the holidays, I found that International Delights, and it said that on there. And I'm like, oh my God, that is such a huge energy thing right there of knowing that that company has the forethought to put that on the label. You know, at one point in time, we mentioned I don't know, we've talked about that one study where they put water in different bottles, and on the sides of the bottles, they wrote different emotional words like anger, frustration, happiness, love, those kind of things, and how they, when they looked at the water frozen under the microscope, the different types of, what do you want to call it? The different types of frozen cells.
Water crystals.
Yeah, the water crystals underneath the microscope, when they looked at the ones that had positive emotional words on the side of the bottle, they were beautiful water crystals. And the ones that had hate and anger and frustration and those kind of words on there had like these jagged, scary looking ones. And I'm like, you know, that was when I first really started thinking about that aspect of it. And so when I saw that where it said hug in a mug, I thought, oh my God, this is probably the best coffee creamer in the world, you know? And when I read this chapter, it made me think about it even more. And in terms of, you know, I actually went on their website to see what their like philosophy or of, you know, everything like that. And let's see, I put a quote. Where did I write it down here? Because I wanted to read this. because it turns out it wasn't, International Delights is actually owned by a company called White Wave or Danone Wave. And one of the things they had in their mission statement is it says purpose driven to produce healthful foods that create economic and social value and nurture the natural ecosystems through sustainable architecture or agriculture. And I thought, my God, you know, here's a company that really does care. And they are like a distributor for many different products, and they only work with companies that also hold those values. And so when I started thinking about that and what she was talking about, I thought, where else can I make changes in my purchases that help to kind of support those kind of companies that are actually doing something good in the world? And it was just I don't know, just really a big kind of aha moment for me, if you will. I'm like, I just started thinking about that, and it really struck me as just a much bigger deal than what we typically think of things as. What do you guys?
Yeah, totally agree. I feel like more and more I'm being more conscious of where I put my money, and I'm due to go buy new clothes. Like, I desperately need new clothes. I have like holes in things. But I struggle with it now because I don't want to just go put my clothes, like the cheap clothes that you can buy at all these brand name stores is from factories that are polluting the environment, where the workers are suffering, where you're putting some clothes on your body that went through emotions that are dark and heavy and in icky environments with icky energy. And so that's something I've really been thinking about. And actually, one of my best friends and I were thinking about starting a eco clothing line, like a consciousness clothing, where we know where it's being made. It's helping maybe indigenous cultures to have work, and they're treated well and cared with love, like, and so that the clothes are being produced with love and care, because we want to have that energy in everything, in our food that's being made, in our clothing, anything that we're putting in our body or on our body. We want to have a consciousness of love and happiness in it, not what a lot of it is with fear and anger and frustration, because everything is carrying an energy, everything, our clothes, our food. And when we ingest it or put it on, we feel it. And whether we are aware of it or not, it's going in our system. So it's something that I've been resisting going shopping, because I'm like, well, what am I gonna, and trying to really find the conscious places where I can know what I'm buying. I know that their workers are being cared for and loved, and that the quality is good, that it's not polluting the environment the way it's being made. A lot of the waste they use to make clothes, the wastewater, it's just tons of wastewater going into the water supply that is disgusting with chemicals. So yeah, as you can see, I'm very woo about it, because it's something like I think a lot of people don't think about where their money is actually going. And you probably saw some of this meme on Facebook where it shows some of the main brands like Kellogg's, and I don't even know the brands because I don't eat them, but like all these brands that are top main name brands in America that are known to carry GMOs and carcinogenic stuff in them. And there's some meme like, if you're putting your money here, you're supporting these companies to keep producing this GMO stuff. So stop putting your money in that. Put your money in your local farms. Like you were saying, look for the local communities, look for the local things that you can support, rather than these companies that are just pumping out this fake chemical, gross, disgusting food that's so horrible for the planet and for people and for our animals that are there sitting in the fields to make this food. So yeah, if you're taking the time to really think, okay, where do I want my money to go? Do I want it to keep going to this GMO production nonsense? Yeah, it's easy. It's there. It's in the store. And I think a lot of people just buy things out of convenience because it's right there. Oh, there's Walmart. Let's go and get our stuff and get our clothes there too, or cheap clothes that is ruining the environment. But if we really take the time to look at consciously where is that money going in the grander scheme of things, then it changes the way everything. Like, I'm very passionate about it, as you can see, because I take time to really think about what food is going in my body, what you know, I do support local farmers. I eat organic for years. I can't, if I ate a Kellogg's food, I'd probably throw up and be sick for days because I could feel the toxicity of it on the taste. It's like, ooh. And what was I going to say? Oh, you had said something else, Samantha, that I was going to touch on, but I forget at the moment. Anyway. Oh, I was going to say about the water. I had wrote in the notes that it's something that I've been practicing, is remembering to talk to my water, because it's going in our body. So those crystalline structures go in your body, or even if you're just telling yourself, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, then you're water. So you're getting those crystalline structures. I actually saw a video, I think it was last week, someone had a bag of like fresh strawberries here and like the same strawberries. They're both good bags of strawberries. One, they kept saying, love, 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 love for like a few days. And the other one, hate, hate, I hate you, I hate you. These love ones were beautiful after a few days. The hate ones had fungus all over them and da-da. I mean, it's amazing. And they showed different experiments with different fruits and food like that. And it's like, wow, you know, so if anyone doesn't believe it, get two pieces of fruit, try it for a few days, love, love, love on one, hate, hate, hate on the other, and it's amazing. So I started talking to my plants, because I'm not a green thumb. Like I'm always like, oh, I kill my plants. But I started just saying love, love, love. And I'm like, oh, that's helping. So, and talking to my water the first thing in the morning before, when I wake up and have my glass of water, like just speak into it. Love, love, joy, joy, everything that I want in my life, in my body. And so it's all of this consciousness. Everything is conscious.
Well, I'm going to jump back out. It seems like it's me and Sandy today. But it goes back to, like you were saying, where we studied in the past about words and the power of words and what we say and the intentionality behind even words. And, you know, you hear, you know, words can kill, which is true, because people internalize it, people take it in. So the power of love and the expression of love is so powerful, and it encompasses and overcomes so many things. You know, it's, you know, goes back to what we're talking about in the power of money and intentionality of how we feel and what we say and what we say behind it, that goes behind it and with it, you know, that carries out. And like she said, you know, when she was in the meeting with the big CEO, when she was up there, and the way he said it, basically she gave her presentation really quick. He was done and over, and he just kind of just reached in the desk, handed the money over, and without any real empathy or heart or anything, just, and saying that he wanted just to get, so it's more of a big facade, and she felt it and she knew it and it carried through her, and and I think she was right by giving that money back, because I know had I been I would have felt icky, and just like she did. And what would that have gained if they had carried on and carried it out? But whereas in the end, when she talks about in the end of the chapter, where he comes back years later after he's retired, he's got a good retirement, he got a good payout and all that from being the stewarding the company and everything, doing what he should. But her action of returning the money and saying what she said in the letter, because she wasn't mean or rude, she just said that they wanted to partner with people who were more committed and with what they were doing. And the way she said it really resonated with them all those years, and came back, and he ended up giving to him, but with a very generous heart, open heart, and he gave so much more than just that 50,000. So how far would that originally 50,000 have gone? In the scheme of things, yes, it would have done a lot of things, but the power of it, it wouldn't have had the same power. Whereas now, what money he gave, which was a lot more than what was originally given, the power behind that of where he came back with the right heart and right intentions and the right, feelings, and gave so much more. So therefore it gave more power and more energy to go out and be utilized in that way too. But I'm kind of curious as to hear what Catherine has to say about some of this. She always has nuggets.
Are you with us there, Catherine? You focused on your son. I know you got your son in the hospital or having surgery today, and I wanted to send some love out to him as well. So I imagine your mind is with him more than anything. And we love you, and we send our love to him as well. I was just looking ahead in the chapter. One thing that popped up to me when you were talking, Dan, is when you mentioned him being a steward of the company, and it reminded me that she was talking about being a steward of money, and that we don't own money, that it's kind of its own thing, but we all have it, we all need it, and we can steward it through our lives and have it help us to express who we are and what we're about in this world. And so she talks about knowing the flow, truth telling about where the money goes. And so she asks a few questions. She says, do you know the flow of money in your life? Are you mindful of how it comes to you? Are you consciously allocating where you want your money to go? When you can see the way money flows through your life, it gives you the power to see where you are in your relationship with it and where you want it to go, or where you want to go with it. If you want a clear picture of your priorities in life, who you are and what you care about, look at your checkbook, your credit card bills, your bank statement. That's where you can see the flow in black and white. Maybe the money is going to cars and clothing, maybe to education or travel. The way money flows to you and through you to other purposes isn't unrelated to your life. And then she just continues to go on in that manner. And I really started thinking about that. And in a lot of ways, I feel like in some ways that you kind of have a natural tendency to only give money in areas that you feel fairly good about. So let me give you an example. When we were doing our apartment search, or actually our apartment / house / everything searches, I kept coming across these companies, these property management companies that had just unpleasant reviews online, or they were just difficult to deal with, or they just wanted you to jump through 10 billion hoops, and they were just unpleasant all the way around. And I thought, I really don't want to do business with these people. And I thought maybe I was going to be stuck with having to, because of us needing a place to rent. But then I came across the guy that owns this house, and that relationship with him, or that whole dynamic, was completely different than having one of these property management companies to have to deal with. And I felt so much better about giving him my money than I felt about anything that we had to deal with previously, because of course we had to pay some money to some of these property management companies just as an application fee. And I didn't feel good about that at all. And when I have had to go and pay for an accountant to work for me, or I've had to pay for anyone to do some kind of work for me, that whole relationship dynamic about the way that person is or interacts with me, it makes it easy when when you have to pay somebody like that. If they're not being cooperative, or they're being unpleasant, then you don't want to spend money with them, right? But when we look a little bit deeper and we think about all the different areas that we spend money, like she's talking about, look through your checkbook, see where you're spending your money, and then that'll help you to realize where you really are. And just the whole concept of looking at every aspect of our financial life and examining, what are the intentions behind it? What are my intentions behind it when I spend it? Who I get my money from, what are their intentions? it just really, put a whole different spin, you know. And I thought, I was sitting here thinking, I'm like, my goodness, if I really treat money more like an energy, and I intentionally am focusing how that money flows through me, I realize I can have such a bigger impact on the positive energy of the world in general, And I just had never thought about it that way. It was just interesting. I, in some things I think about, like in some of the restaurants that I go to, I know, like Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A has a wonderful philosophy. I love those folks, and you go in there and they always make you feel good, and no matter what, they're positive, they're friendly. They have, I don't know how they find so many people with good, positive, happy attitudes, but it just amazed me every time. They'd be like busier than all busyness in the world, and they're all just in there happy go lucky. And I'm just like, what in the world? What are you putting in those, that coffee? I don't know. But but then you go to like McDonald's or something. I don't go there often. Every now and then I'll go there, and they're all just cranky and angry and unhappy about being there. And I'm like, yeah, I hate going there, so I don't want to go there. And so I think about so it's easy when you have those kind of thoughts, but when you really are like digging into your own financial life and really looking at it, it makes me think about the company that I work for, and what are their intentions in the world, and are they in alignment with what my intentions are in the world, and if they're not, then maybe I want to go find some place that is in line with my intentions. And even if I don't know, it's like all these questions come up into my head, and I go and buy milk. Who am I supporting? When I pay my bills, who am I supporting? What aspect of the world am I supporting? And yeah, so just really interesting to really think about.
I also like how in the book she talks about allocation versus accumulation, and she talks about one of her colleagues and mentors, Joan Holmes, who's the president of the Hunger Project, challenged contributors to be known for what you allocate, not what you accumulate. And she never forgot that, and um, she talks about never forgetting the words, and started to become conscious of the patterns and habits that she saw people following in regards and the resulting impact on their lives, including her own, from how we look at how a lot of people tend to, the money they come through, and I'm including myself because I never have enough of it, um, and I tend to want to keep a hold of it so that way I know I have enough to make sure I get that bill paid and that bill paid and this, and it's more coming from an area of, well, am I going to have enough? Do I have enough? Am I going to make it? Instead of going back to how she talks about sufficiency and there's enough out there, if we learn to let go of that mindset and understand that, if we let go and believe in that sufficiency of things and let our energy change it into that positive vibration and energy, that what flows out, like you and Catherine talk about all the time, Sandy, it gets replaced with more, and the way you've always talked about it is more positive energy. It comes back, so that energy, that outflow, will open up to allow more to come in. And I think I'm finally becoming a little more understanding of this because of this book. It's she says it in ways that just kind of clicked with me more and more, and to understand how I look at money. It really, because I've always believed I'm an accountant. I understand money, but I didn't understand this side of it. I understood the side of what I've been taught, what I've seen, what my family taught me, what friends, society has taught me, and so in that respect, This, I have to say it so far, this chapter has been a very powerful chapter for me.
Yeah, this book is powerful for people to read and understand this aspect of the energy of money. Yeah, as you were talking about that chapter, this quote that I also highlighted, this section that I highlighted, I really like, because I think, I get in modes where I realize that I'm holding on or afraid to spend my money because, oh, well, this bill's coming up, so I can't give that person a dollar or something, because, but that's going to go towards my rent, or, but this feeling of needing to hold on and accumulate and have enough, and not trusting that if I do give that dollar to that person, that it's going to come back and maybe tenfold or 1,000-fold, because I'm doing it with a good intention. So I like this that she wrote here. When blood slows down and begins to stop or clot, the body becomes sick. When water slows down and becomes stagnant, it becomes toxic. Accumulating and holding large quantities of money can have the same toxic effect on our life. And for me, that made so much sense, because as an acupuncturist, of course, I'm always talking about, is your energy flowing or is it stagnant? So that's how I see a lot of things, is about this energy, but it's almost like I didn't see money in that same way. And it's the same as like everything, like the water becomes toxic if it's sitting there. The blood can make you sick if it stops and slows down. So same with money. If you're not in that cycle of giving and receiving, and it's just sitting and stuck, then it has the same toxic effect as the water becoming stuck or the blood becoming slowed down. So that was like, wow, yeah, that makes so much sense. But it's like something we don't think about or acknowledge that that's the same thing. It's got to have this flow, and we've been so trained to hold on to it, or to save, or to be afraid of it going, and it permeates our society so much, like this fear of losing our money. But if we see it in this way, where it's like this flow and this giving and receiving and blah, 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 and it's like the water, it's like all wavy and wee, our money can be like that. So seeing it in that way just really, it makes me feel light and good. Like, yeah, this makes sense. It's energy, like flowing like that. Like I could stick needles in money and make it flow.
That's funny, yeah. And that brought up the whole aspect of, you keep mentioning fear, and that tends to be the thing that, drives our society and our financial society, is fear. And if we can switch that feeling of fear over to one of love by changing the way that we use money in our lives, and changing our mindset about money from one of fear-based, when we're like worried about spending it, or we're scared that, we're going to spend too much, or so we buy less expensive things, or, we don't spend as much, we go to cheaper stores, we all of those different things are fear-based. Are we holding on to it, or we're avoiding changing jobs because we don't want to lose our insurance, or we don't want to lose our benefits, or we don't want to make less money, or all those are all fear-based thoughts. And if we can change our thought process on that, and think about instead focusing on resonating with and being in harmony with the company that we're working with, because we're all working towards providing either the type of service or the type of product or that kind of thing, or we're just in harmony with that company's beliefs in terms of the way that they do business, then maybe if we're also focusing on how we're spending our money in the same way, is that then that flow becomes easier or better, feels better, right? If we make those changes, then what would happen? What are the possibilities in that? Will it flow better? Will it? I don't know. That's just the whole aspect of it that I'm I'm really curious to start digging into deeper in my life. And yeah, and I love that you talked about the strawberries and that little experiment of, you know, sending love towards one strawberries and sending unpleasant feelings towards the other. And if we could change, I mean, if something so simple as that, you know, can have such a big difference, then what kind of difference can we make in our lives by just changing our whole decision-making process when it comes to money from one of fear over to one of love and love intentions versus fear decisions. So, wow, really powerful.
I just had a thought, maybe to speak love to the money too. Like when you're holding money, love, 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 love. Like put that energy in there. And yeah, because it's got to be the same, like doing with water and strawberries, do it with the money too. Love, 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 love. Yay.
Well, at some point, money was, you know, the basis of money per se, even though it goes through a lot of changes to upgrade it and make it, you know, so it can't be counterfeited and stuff, and, you know, things are added. But in its original source, when we first originally started printing money, it was paper. So it came from trees, came from wood, you know, and you know, so in that sense, it is a living, you know, if you look at it that way, you know, it would have energy and, you know, stuff to carry through, just like anything. Just like my house is basically, you know, has wood walls and stuff and things like that, you know. um and I know from as a childhood the difference between growing up in the house I lived in with my real mom and stepdad, and I've talked about that before, the abuse and the things that I've gone through there, you know, and the energy that was in that house compared to when I went to my grandmother's house, that when I was there, it was a different energy. It was love. It was safe. It was, you know, a place I wanted to be, a place I enjoyed being, a place I didn't want to leave. So those types of things, I think, you know, if we really think about it and look back and think about the things, you know, how love makes us feel and how it encompasses everything, I think we can understand that, you know, yeah, put that energy into, you know, money as you're doing, as your thought process and things like that. Granted, you're not going to think about it every single time, but if you make it more of a habit and a thought, that, you know, when you know, obtain money as it's coming in, put that love into it as you're receiving it, but then put that same love out, or even more as you're putting it out, with the thoughts and the processes of how you're utilizing it for the purchase you make, the things you do, where it's going to make an impact. I think you can understand. I'm even understanding the thought process of carrying the vibrational energy in a way I've never understood it before, because you guys have explained it. We've read about it, but for some odd reason, it's connecting it so even more after what you just said.
Reminds me, this was years ago when I was in acupuncture school, must be 10 years ago. I was having a reading from a friend, like a psychic kind of reading. And so we were talking about my money flow because I was on student loans and I just felt like not knowing what I was doing with money at all. So she's like, during the reading, it came up, she's like, the guides are telling me whenever you get money to just hold it on your heart chakra, and just like acknowledge that you receive this money. Like take the time to actually acknowledge that you're receiving it. And I think that I've sort of carried that since then in a way. I don't always put it on my heart chakra, but there's always this consciousness of like, I received money. And she said, hold on to it for 24 hours before you spend any of that money that you received, just so you know that you're receiving and you have it and you're feeling that it's with me, and then you can spend it as you freely choose after that. But I thought that was, and I thought that was important, because a lot of times we can just be moving our money and not really conscious of what we're doing, but taking that moment to say, oh, I had a patient today and I got money for the exchange of the service that I gave, and really acknowledging that and taking the moment to, oh, I'm so grateful that I received this for that, and blah, 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 you know. And so I think that's another way to bring some consciousness to the money is really taking the time in those moments where we're actually handing it over or taking it to really like even look at it and acknowledge it and hold it for a moment and just acknowledge it and okay, yeah, I'm receiving this. And so that's something I've carried since that reading. I mean, I go through phases where I forget about it, but then when I'm having issues again, I'm like, oh yeah, let me like take a moment here with my money and thank you. I received this. And so that was really helpful. I thought I'd share that.
Yeah, when you were talking about giving love to the money, it reminded me that I have been very much more purposeful about being thankful for my money, and just sharing my feelings of gratitude with it, if you will, or just acknowledging it with gratitude. And I've been doing that more and more over the past couple of years, and it has flowed into our lives in just different ways, just unexpected ways that has been very surprising. And I didn't even think to connect those things together until we've just started having this conversation. And but just realizing how much a difference just changing some aspect of it. Imagine if we change all aspects around it, what kind of difference that can make. And so I would, I kind of made this little note, and when you were talking about love, and I was thinking about gratitude, and then you were talking about slowing down, just holding on to it for a little bit and sharing those intentions with it, and then it just opens up that whole thought process of just being more mindful versus mindless with our spending and our receiving, for that matter. And we've talked before about being more mindful of things, and I feel like when we are just a little bit more mindful, it slows us down. It makes us think about things a little bit more versus just doing stuff on autopilot and letting it just happen however it happens. And just that whole, just being more mindful of everything can just make such a huge difference. So I just love that. I love it. Well, guys, we're about at the top of the hour. You want to just share some final thoughts, and then we'll wrap it up for today? Or is everybody done?
No, I just pinged up on my phone, so I was just like seeing what Sandy had just put, and to send love to Catherine for what she's going through right now. And speaking of love, and I had said a little something just to let her know that I was thinking of her and her son. Um, all I can say is, in reading this book last night, it kind of, you know, I think the timing was perfect for me because of some things that have going on and some things I have to do with my HOA and trying to catch up on HOA fees because of focusing on getting my car paid off and getting a personal loan paid off, which got those, but now I'm going to have to, but and I've been in this kind of mode of where am I going to get this money from? Where am I going to, and it's been, so in a sense, in my faith and my beliefs, I've been doing some praying, searching, trying to, trust and believe that, things are gonna, but I think this book chapter kind of was coming in and to remind me in a additional way that, if I change my thought process of how I'm feeling about it, you know, going away from the fear and going away from, how, what, where, why, and being like this to opening, because if it's like this, how is something else going to get back in? How can I receive? Going back to what Sandy was saying, how can I receive and be grateful and what you were saying? But if I let go and let it flow through, then more can come in that I can use and utilize and take care of the things I need to take care of. So, I think this chapter was at a poignant time when I needed to be reminded, on top of the prayers and the beliefs and the things I've been holding on to and, trying to figure out a way that, I'll figure something out. It, somehow we'll figure out and I'll just have to go from there and deal with what I have to deal with and then move forward. And once I get that fully squared away, however steps I take, you know, it's not the end of the world. And it feels like it is, because $1,500 is a lot of money to try and come up with. So, but I can't stress about it. I need to change the energy of how I'm looking at it and open myself up to allowing more energy to come in and let it flow through me.
I was just, well, since I didn't finish the end, but I came to the end of the chapter, somehow flipping here, and I really love the last paragraph. So I'll just share that as my closing. No matter how much or how little money you have flowing through your life, when you direct that flow with soulful purpose, you feel wealthy. You feel vibrant and alive when you use your money in a way that represents you, not just as a response to the market economy, but also as an expression of who you are. When you let your money move to things you care about, your life lights up. That's really what money is for. Yeah, I think that's such a great way to see money. It's an expression of you. And I guess that's what this chapter really was about too, is, with the CEO, it was an expression of him just wanting to cover his ass. And that's who he was at that moment. But as he realized later on that his expression of himself, he wanted to be different and express that differently, express himself, and used money to show that that expression in the better way. So I think that's such a great way to see how we're using money. Is it really expressing who I am and how I want to be in the world? Maybe asking ourselves that question as we're spending and receiving, and is this in flow with who I am? And is that the key to abundance, is really using money in a way that is us, that's genuine. And maybe that's the key, when we're in that struggle, like really trusting, like if I'm doing this from my expression, that everything I need is going to be supplied, even in those moments of fear, like I'm just going to do this. I'm giving this $1,000, even though I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent tomorrow. I'm going to give this because it's here. It's presenting this opportunity that my heart is calling to give to, and trusting that is going to come back and that your rent will be paid tomorrow. Like really having that faith, which is such something that we don't learn or have in our society so much, but how, like really being able to be in that space where it's really truly our expression, and using money in our expression. Like, it sounds so freeing and amazing. Let's do it. Thank you. Great discussion. Great chapter.
I find that to be absolutely true. If you do the right thing with your money, it comes back to you. Like, it just comes out of nowhere. You don't know why. You can be just gripped with fear about giving that money or paying that bill or whatever it is. But if it's the right thing to do and you go ahead and do it, then it'll come back. And I don't understand how that works, but I witness it every day. And this chapter, really points out the power that we have individually to make huge differences in the world, if nothing else, just with our intent. And I love how she points out that, the $500 gathered in that Harlem church room or whatever it was, she just felt like that $500 was going to do more in the world than the $50,000 check that she wound up returning, because of the intent behind the money. And I think it's very powerful. Unfortunately, money has been demonized by religion, and it's been separated from spirituality. And I know so many spiritual people, including myself, who do healing work and are just uncomfortable accepting money for that, because they feel like it's a God-given it's really God doing the healing. I'm not doing the healing. Why am I getting paid for it? I mean, there's whole mind fuck that goes with, oh, sorry. Well, that's not very spiritual, but you know what I mean? Like, there's this whole twist in the mind when it comes to being a good person and money. And I notice I have to check myself on it constantly, because I can be like in this totally zen space, and then suddenly, somebody needs money for something, and I'm looking at my checkbook trying to figure out how am I going to pay my bills, and I turn into a demon, because I'm like, I need money, and there's not enough, and you go into this whole fear thing, and totally lose my zen, and and so I'm constantly checking myself around money, because I think the important thing to recognize is, and Samantha, you said it, is money is not ours. We don't own money. Just because it's in my bank account doesn't mean that that's my money necessarily. It's just money. And money has its own life. Money has its own dreams and its own inspirations. And, it would much rather be used for supporting things that are supporting other things, and so it's sad, because we do feel like there's a lack of it. We do go to those cheaper stores and buy just out of practicality. Like, I find myself saying, well, why should I spend, this amount of money on this item when I can spend this amount? It's not practical. But then if I actually look at, okay, but what, is that supporting child labor, and this isn't, and how is the company supporting the environment and all this and that, then it, makes more sense. Not to say that every expensive thing is an environmentally sound company or anything. Don't get me wrong there, but I think it's important that we do spend our money on things that support our values. And I think, there's a lot of bills that I pay that I when I write that check or I hand over that cash, there's just like this like there's this rub, this resentment that comes with it, especially around taxes. I don't know about you guys, but like, I pay as much in taxes a month as I pay for rent. And that's just past taxes. That's not even like current taxes. And so when I look at how wasteful the government is with money and things like that, like, there's just this resentment there. And I need to work on that and flip that around, and focus more on the good things that the government does with the money, instead of focusing on the ways that they're wasting it or whatnot. Because I think, well, they should be held to the budget that I'm forced to be held to. But I think money, I love the comparison of money and water. And it does carry the energy of the intent that it's given with. I can tell you, as a driver, I've been given tips that were 3 times as much as the fare, and I've been given, $2 tips on a huge fare. And I can tell, as somebody hands me that money, how thankful they are, or if they're just doing it because they feel like, they're showing off, or, I mean, I can totally feel it. And it means so much more to me when someone hands me that $1 or $2, and I know that may be their lunch money that day or something. So intent is huge. And we just have to check ourselves daily, you guys. I'm reading another book about thoughts, and how thoughts create everything. When you break it down, we'll talk about that another time, because we're at the end of this session. But um, we just have to realize how powerful each one of us is. And I can tell you that a little bit of money to us can go and do amazing things in other places. It can completely change lives. A few $100 given to the right person in the right place can change hundreds of lives. And so don't underestimate what an impact you can have on the world. Love you guys. Thanks for the well wishes for my son.
Powerful, Catherine. Thank you for sharing that. I feel like you just wrapped it all up for us. That's beautiful. Well, guys, we are past the top of the hour. We need to wrap up for today. And we've had a great discussion. I look forward to our next one. And for those of you who are watching, give us a like on YouTube, subscribe to the channel if you want to get updates for when our next one is. Although we get together pretty much every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. And you can just watch the YouTube channel for the announcement for the next live event. And if you'd like to, participate with us, then jump over to our Facebook group and comment on one of our posts. Let us know you want to participate. You can find our Facebook group by going to mindsetmasterycollective.com. There'll be a link below this video for that, as well as you can link to our playlist to watch all of our different videos. So have a great, awesome, amazing weekend, and we'll see you next week on the Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.